Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for an Invent Together virtual briefing celebrating Black invention in the United States. We are thrilled to be with you this afternoon as we reach the end of Black History Month. My name is Kari Cyrus, and I work closely with Invent Together as an attorney at the law firm Covington and Burling in Washington, D.C. Invent Together is an alliance of universities, companies, nonprofits, and other stakeholders dedicated to understanding the diversity gaps in invention and patenting and supporting public policy and private initiatives to close them. To help address the inventor diversity gaps, Invent Together is pleased to provide on our website the Inventors Patent Academy, a free online patent education tool designed for historically underrepresented inventors. Invent Together believes that everyone should have the opportunity to invent and patent. Inventors who hold patents benefit from higher incomes, new job and promotion opportunities, broader social networks, and heightened prestige. Patents also help businesses increase revenues and create jobs. An increasing participation in inventing and patenting will increase US GDP and lead to new and different inventions. Black individuals patent inventions at rates significantly below the representation in the population. Black individuals make up almost 13% of the US population, but account for less than 2% of inventors. At the same time, Black inventors have made a huge impact on our daily lives. Black inventors brought us the 3-light traffic signal, the blood bank, the super soaker, and many more inventions that save lives and spark joy. In honor of Black History Month, Invent Together is excited to host this virtual briefing to celebrate Black invention and discuss how stakeholders are working together to harness the talent and ingenuity of all Americans. Today, we are joined by U.S. Patent and Trademark Office Deputy Director Derek Brent, who will kick off the briefing with Invent Together Executive Director Holly Fechner in a fireside chat. Following what promises to be an insightful conversation, we will have a panel discussion with Black inventors, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. A bit of housekeeping before we begin. At the bottom of your screen are buttons that correspond to resources to use throughout the webcast. If you have any questions for our speakers during the webcast, you can submit them through the Ask Question window. We encourage submitting questions throughout the presentation, and we'll have a dedicated time at the end for Q&A. For the best viewing experience, we recommend closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background, and most technical issues can be resolved by refreshing your browser. Lastly, Invent Together will be live tweeting this event, and we invite you to engage in the conversation on Twitter. The Invent Together Twitter handle is @invent_together. With that, I'm excited to introduce Derek Brent, the Deputy Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Deputy Director of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. He serves as the Principal Advisor to Kathy Vidal, Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the USPTO for one of the largest intellectual property offices in the world. Joining the Deputy Director is Holly Fechner, the Executive Director of Invent Together and a partner at the law firm Covington and Burling. Holly is a co-chair of the firm's Technology Industry Group, and she previously served as Policy Director to Senator Edward Kennedy. Please join me in welcoming Holly and Deputy Director Brent. Holly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kari. Deputy Director Brent, what a pleasure it is to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Holly, my friend. So thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. Well, let's get going. I think our audience would love to know a bit more about you, Derek. You've had such a distinguished career in intellectual property, serving on the Senate Judiciary Committee, working for two of the country's top innovative companies, and now at the USPTO. And I also know you happen to be a huge music fan. So tell our audience more about why you started a career in intellectual property.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Holly. And again, I want to thank everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I will tell you that people in my hometown still wonder how the little skinny kid who played basketball and they played basketball and played the trumpet somehow ended up, here where I am as a lawyer. Quite honestly, it was because intellectual property satisfied both of my sides of my brain and satisfied both of my areas, which is a creative side, and then also satisfied my analytical side. I was always good with math and science, and then I was also good at music, and the inventive process is very creative, even where it is analytical. You make things where they never were before. So intellectual property always appealed to me as blending these two aspects, and it's both fulfilling in that way.
That's fantastic. Well, let's get down to a discussion that brought us here. We're so pleased at the end of this Black History Month to focus on Black inventors and Black inventorship. We know that you and USPTO Director Kathy Vidal have really focused on ensuring that everybody in the country can participate in inventing and patenting. And I know you've got a number of important initiatives to try to make progress in this area. Tell us about some of those. What initiatives do you have underway, and what results are we seeing?
Well, we have several, but I'll highlight a few here. One of them is the first time filer program, and that is where someone who has never filed before has the opportunity to get an expedited process towards their first office action. So they get a chance very quickly to get feedback on their invention. That's really important, and for some, you might say, some folks might say, well, really, is that meaningful? Well, I'm going to give you a story from history. George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver invented over 400 products. He only held 3 patents. And that's because George Washington Carver said that I always felt that if I took time away for the patent to get patents, that it would take so much time that it would take away from my inventions and my other processes. Something like the first time filer, and I'm not going to tell you that it's a cure-all, but it's certainly an important tool that makes sure that we're not stymieing the next George Washington Carver, that we're giving them a process that they can get started here in the office. And then the next time, of course, we all know that after you do it, the second time is a little bit easier, and a third and a fourth, and then hopefully we can get up to 400 and we can have another George Washington Carver with 400 patents this time. We have other programs. We've been doing a lot of community outreach, and within our outreach, we've been reaching out specifically to HBCUs and trying to find ways to enhance and improve commercialization and tech transfer opportunities at those schools. It would be a wonderful opportunity. It's a win for everybody if we can expand commercialization at HBCUs. We can get students and faculty can get great experience, and the schools can have a commercial opportunity. And the marketplace benefits because we're unleashing a serious and innovative force in our country that is right now, as Kari gave us with the stat, only 2% are being funded right now. So we have a lot of room to make it up, and the HBCUs have an important role to play in these efforts. We're expanding our pro bono services, and we are also expanding our innovation. We have an innovation internship program, and that innovation internship program is for third-year college students, and it will provide hands-on learning remotely with professionals around the office. That's really important, that exposure. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, I got an internship my second year in college with General Motors, and with that, all of a sudden, all of the work I was doing in engineering made sense. It made sense for why I was doing what I was doing. So internships are a great way to help the pipeline and help create the next generation. So those are just a few of the ways that we're working towards this.
Derek, thank you so much. We're so pleased that the USPTO is taking such a leadership role. You know, what you're saying really fits with some research that Invent Together has conducted. We interviewed a number of inventors from historically underrepresented groups. And I think so many of the things that you're doing fit with some of the barriers that they say that they have faced. The fact that legal fees are so high. So we're so pleased that the USPTO does have this robust pro bono program. And we're also excited, it sounds like, because of legislation that Congress passed just in December, that there may even be improvements to the pro bono program.
That's great. Thank you, Holly. And our pro bono program is something we're very proud of. And there's two parts to it. Of course, there's the pro bono services themselves, providers where we provide some support, financial support. And then there's also the pro bono law clinics. And between the two programs, we get coverage across the United States. And we found that where you provide an opportunity with these services, that folks who are underrepresented actually come in and get into the system. And the one stat that I often cite is that we were able to show something like a threefold improvement in inventorship amongst women, just between the normal filing process and where we were providing pro bono services. Where you provide opportunity, folks will take advantage.
Absolutely. I love that data-driven approach to public policy. That's fantastic. You know, one thing we feel as we do this work is that people don't appreciate the incredible impact that intellectual property has on our country, you know, both in terms of the economy and also our global competitiveness with other countries. USPTO has done some really interesting research to show that 63 million jobs, or about 44% of the whole workforce, come from IP intensive industries. And so the more we do in this area to encourage Blacks and other members of historically underrepresented groups to participate and live up to their full potential, the better off I think we're all going to be. We would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, what would it mean for this country to increase Black inventorship?
Well, I think you know, it's one of those things. You know, when you're playing pickup basketball, they say, you know, the ball don't lie. Well, the numbers don't lie here. And I'll just give you a couple. You know, McKinsey did a report, and they showed that, you know, of course, the number of Black employer-owned businesses, let's just call them entrepreneurs, is roughly around 2%. We keep running into that 2% number, which is well below the 13 or 14% demographic representation of African Americans in society. If you just increased the percentage of African American entrepreneurs to its representative level, just to its representative level, you know, the McKinsey report says that you would create just another $1 billion in revenues towards the GDP. I mean, that's an amazing leap. Just to get up to representative levels will give you that much room. And that's important. And again, it gets to why HBCUs, just to give another plug for the HBCUs, that's why they're so important, because HBCUs are 3% of the total college population, but they produce 25% of Black STEM graduates across the country. So you have a ready, willing, and able pipeline of future entrepreneurs. We just have to connect them to the opportunity.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the HBCUs. Another development that we are excited about is the passage of the CHIPS and Science Act, and particularly focusing on the science piece, because it really does, I think, contain a number of important provisions that focus on enhanced opportunities for research, entrepreneurship, inventing and patenting. But of course, the Congress does need to make sure that those provisions are funded.
Yes.
And so we at Invent Together will play our part in making sure that happens. But in addition to chips and science, what else is the Biden-Harris administration doing generally to increase the number of Blacks who invent?
Thank you. That's a good question. I think the Biden-Harris administration has really shown they're putting their money where their mouth is, so to use the old phrase. It started off on day one with an executive order dealing with equity and underserved communities, right? And then you have to put those words into action. And in each of the major pieces of legislation, whether it's the infrastructure bill, whether it's the American Rescue Plan, or whether it's CHIPS, you see this theme of where the administration, as well as those members in Congress, are pushing forward with the idea of creating more opportunities, more jobs. Now, within that realm of creating more jobs is the ability to create more entrepreneurs, and with entrepreneurs, you get inventors. So it's creating more opportunity, I think, in that way. And then the next question is, how do you do this? You just create that opportunity. You have to have a second part of it, and that's enhancing community outreach. And you do that community outreach, and you also use the talking to the universities to make sure that the pipeline is full. And again, let's get the pipeline full so that we have entrepreneurs coming out and inventors coming out that can actually take advantage of these new economic opportunities. So it's a whole approach. It's a holistic approach that I think is very important towards creating an environment that is very friendly for new inventors to come out and to become entrepreneurs and actually develop new breakthrough things.
That's terrific. Well, just so you know, Invent Together stands ready to work with you to support these just incredibly important initiatives. Are there some final thoughts that you'd like to leave for our audience today?
Thank you very much again. There's a lot of work, and I appreciate, Holly, that Invent Together is willing to roll up the sleeves and get to the hard work. I know the organization is centered around creating an inclusive innovation economy. So we really appreciate your work, and we look forward to working with you. And all of us, we just have to keep doing more and keep doing better. And every day we get up and there's a little bit more to do and there's a little bit better to do.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Kari, we'll send it back to you now.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you so much, Deputy Director Brent, for that insightful discussion on the state of Black invention and the steps the administration is taking to expand opportunities and cultivate the next generation of Black inventors and entrepreneurs. So joining me now for today's panel discussion is an esteemed panel of thought leaders, including Black inventors, entrepreneurs, equity experts, and patenting and commercialization experts. Dr. Lola Oweniyi-Oteri currently works as a principal systems research and development engineer within the Qualcomm Wireless Research and Development Organization. In her role, she is involved in standardization, research, and development of 5G technology and research of next-generation wireless technologies. Also joining us this afternoon is Dr. Almisha Campbell, the Assistant Vice President for Research and Economic Development and Director for Technology Transfer and Commercialization at Jackson State University. She also began her term as the elected chair of AUTM, the Association of Technology Transfer Managers. Next, we have TJ Fallahun, a co-founder of multiple medical technology startups, including Olera Incorporated and Iris LLC, which aims to prevent vision loss in underserved communities. TJ also has a bachelor's and master's degree in biomedical engineering and holds a patent for the use of deep learning for ocular disease diagnosis. Finally, we are joined by Dr. Stephanie Page, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Women in Engineering Proactive Network Incorporated, or WEPAN. Dr. Page is a STEM equity and community engagement expert, and she brings a unique personal perspective to this work as an HBCU grad and a scientist. Thank you all for agreeing to speak on today's panel. A quick reminder for folks in the audience, if you have any questions for our speakers during this webcast, you can click on the button at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A button, and you could submit any questions you have through the Ask Question window. And with that, let's get started. So I'd like to start with a lightning round. And because this is a celebration of Black invention, for our panelists, if you have a favorite Black inventor or invention, who is it or what is it and why? Stephanie, let's start with you.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here and to share that one of my favorite patent holders is actually currently interim dean at the College of Engineering at my alma mater, North Carolina A&T State University, Dr. Stephanie Lester Teasley, and she's done incredible work. So look her up, check her out, check out that work.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right. TJ, how about you?
Sure thing. Mine will have to be, his name is Tope Awontola. He's the co-founder and CEO of Calendly, which is, it's a software platform for scheduling and so forth. So there was a lot of interesting technology that came out of that. He's also a Nigerian American immigrant, and his story is really inspiring.
Thanks, TJ. Almisha?
Great. Mine is actually Patricia Bach, because she's an alum of an HBCU, Howard University. She was a great humanitarian and also developed a technique and for cataract surgery. So hats off to her for all the hard work that she did.
Excellent. Lola?
Yes, thank you. So my favorite inventor would be Mary Van Brinton Brown, because I've been researching on the old timers, the old Black inventors, and she came up with an invention actually for a security system. So leveraging video, leveraging microphones, and she did this because she was trying to provide more security for a home in the neighborhood. That involves a lot of the technology that I get to work on today. So I see her definitely as one of the pioneers in my field, and definitely she is my favorite inventor. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing these stories of Black inventors with our audience. I mean, we cannot celebrate Black invention without first taking the time to acknowledge the contributions of Black inventors. TJ, let's turn to you now. Could you please speak to your experience as an inventor and your thoughts on how we can change cultures and institutions to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to invent and patent?
Absolutely, I can speak to that. The process of invention and filing for patents can be extremely intimidating for those who are new. That's how it was for me. You know, there's all this language, there are all the paperwork and the costs associated with it. And if you're somebody who maybe haven't been exposed to this, nor you have the connections or the resources, it's like an immediate turnoff, and you just automatically assume that that's not possible. So I think something that we can do to encourage people who might otherwise have, you know, great ideas that can benefit others, something we could do to help bring those people, you know, into a position where they can invent, is to create opportunities where two things. One is connections to those who have done it before, right? Like, who you know matters more than what you know is what, like, the common saying goes, right? And that is so true when it comes to this process as well. Mentorship programs, whether it's with existing professionals at firms or other structures to enable people to network with those who've done it, I think that can really help individuals in the early stages. The second thing would be just funding opportunities, whether that's grants or maybe more favorable terms for loans for individuals who are maybe starting off. It's incredibly expensive to pay for the legal fees, and having ways to subsidize it, or having perhaps lower costs for individuals who are outside of the inner circle. I think those are two ways that I think would be beneficial to help bring more inventors to the forefront.
Thanks, TJ. That makes perfect sense. And it was so great to hear Holly and Deputy Director Brent talk about the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's Patent Pro Bono program, which, to your point, gets at some of those barriers to entry, including the high costs. So I would like to turn next to Lola. You're an inventor as well, on more than 300 patents and patent pending applications worldwide in the wireless communications field. Could you share your experience navigating the patent process, including any challenges you have faced along the way? And then what advice do you have for other Black inventors to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. And I think my journey has been kind of interesting. I would really speak to this in 3 different ways. The first one being the confidence in believing your own ideas. I had read about inventors all my life and I wanted to become one, but at some point, at the point where I was about to start my first one, it was daunting, intimidating. I think my ideas were what, filing as a patent, those were the questions in my mind. And I think speaking to what really helped ground me in my ideas and with the confidence to say, you know what, it's good to put this forward, was really understanding my field and just going after what exists now, what problems are we trying to solve, and then what is the solution that I'm bringing to the table, what is the value proposition here. I had to clarify that for myself. And once that was clear, then I went about the journey of trying to convince other people about this. And I think this could be definitely an advice for people coming up to say, how do you clarify that to yourself? Be grounded in the solution that you're bringing to the table. And it's okay to be unsure whether this is really something worthy of a patent, but at least have just some grounding on that, where you can start to share with people and say, this is the idea that I have, what do you think? And I went about sharing this with experts. So the whole process of convincing other people about your idea. So talk to experts about it. This is what I have. And people would ask you questions. They will drill down. They will pull it apart. They will give you their own suggestions. It's for you to take it and refine it a bit. It makes us stronger. So one of the things I've also done is working with collaborators and trying to convince others, work with collaborators to take in input, take feedback, work with mentors like TJ mentioned. All that really helped me now that I have confidence in my idea, have discussed with others and incorporated their ideas into or their feedback into this process. Then I went about the process of actually filing a patent. I have the honor of working for a company, Qualcomm, that has over 140,000 patents. So we have in-house resources to actually help with the patenting process. But I did have to take courses. I did have to put forth my ideas to a review board and feel free to defend it. And sometimes, they kick back your idea. You have to go back to the drawing board and reiterate it and test it out. And sometimes you do simulations. Sometimes you do prototypes. These are ways of testing out your idea. But really, I think I want to encourage people to really enjoy this process of convincing yourself, convincing others, and then going about to actually now going through the process. When I started, I didn't know the difference between a non-provisional versus a provisional. Right? What is continuation in part? What does that mean? All this I learned by actually taking courses and talking to people and asking questions. And don't think any question is dumb. Just go about, trying to bring this to fruition. I think as long as we keep our eyes on the prize, understand what problem you're trying to solve, understand what solution we're bringing to the table, collaborate with others, and also speak to mentors. And last but not the least, I would say practice, practice, practice. Do it once, do it twice, do it as many times as you can. It gets better and it gets easier. And also you have fun doing it. Thank you.
That's really great advice. Thank you so much. Excuse me. So, Almisha, let's go to you next to continue this conversation about the challenges that Black inventors face and the resources that are available to them. So, as a member of the Autumn Board of Directors and someone who works in the tech transfer office of an HBCU, what can universities and their tech transfer offices do to encourage Black inventors to patent and commercialize their ideas? And then, do you have any Black inventor success stories you can share from your time at JSU?
Thank you for that question, Carrie. For some reason, I started coughing as soon as you almost got to me, so my apologies. But yes, there's so much we can do. I like Lola's story because you have to learn to do it yourself. I believe that if we don't provide that training to the students and to the faculty, someone will always have to do it for them, and they won't really understand and really grasp the process where they're able to contribute even long after leaving that institution. So one of the things I've done is created those opportunities, create those programs from the K-12 system to the college system in educating our students. And I think that's why students do it, because now they're able to draft those patent applications. They're able to intern in whether federal labs or with the university. They're able to do these things. I would say one of my favorite inventors at my campus would be Lamonte Pierce. He was a student that entered into a College of Business competition, simple Shark Tank style competition, and him and another student got together. But somewhere in that presentation, Lamonte figured out, oh, I won this competition. I need to figure out what to do next. And Lamonte found me in my office. And he would come to my office every time he had a break between classes, which was very often. He would find me and we would sit together. We would do patent landscape searches. I will do water treatment testing with him so that he was able to create, I'm sorry, sorry. So he was able to create that clean straw. He was able to get his patent application approved within under 2 years, which was the fastest I've seen it since I've been in the field for 11 years. And then he was able to get a number of his products on the Walmart shelf. So Lamonte was one of those people that he stuck with it. He wanted to learn it from the beginning to the end. He didn't care about that. He thought about, what if you're not here for me 5 years down the road? How do I develop my next invention? How do I get it protected? And so even after he graduated, I still was engaged with him where he would come back and he would ask questions because he really needed to know the process. So I would encourage anyone out there that are working with Black inventors or potential Black inventors to make sure you teach them the process, not just talk with them and work it through, but teach them the process so that they can do it themselves and they can move into other fields and other areas and spaces where they can also train others. So thank you so much for that question. And it is such a great opportunity to highlight some of these things that is taking place in our Black community to ensure that we encourage others to do some of the things that these great panelists have been doing in their fields as well.
That is so true. And just hearing these responses, I mean, I'm just struck by how important it is for, mentorship and connecting with folks that have done this work already. It just helps break down so many barriers to know that you can turn to somebody to ask those questions. So for folks interested in the audience, I think the message here that I'm hearing, one of the great messages is ask questions, follow up, reach out to people that are in a field that you're interested in and do your homework. And it sounds like that would be a great way to help sort of tear down some of those barriers. So HBCUs like JSU are integral in training and educating our future Black inventors and entrepreneurs. Stephanie, not only are you an HBCU graduate, but you are also an equity expert. So what steps would you encourage both public and private entities to take in order to increase equity and innovation? And what would it have been helpful to know or have available to you as an HBCU science student to realize the possibility and promise of inventing and patenting?
Yes, these are great questions, questions that are near and dear to my heart. I think a lot about equity in the context of entrepreneurship and innovation. But I would be remiss if I didn't start out with, so much of what we're talking about is connected to and related to Black studies, the humanities, and the social sciences. And what we know about Black inventors, what we know about the systems and how they're impacting Black entrepreneurs and inventors, Black education, how HBCUs are impacted, comes from these spaces. And so I would be remiss to say that equity, if I did not say that equity is so tightly connected to supporting these spaces. And also to say that what I've loved here is that we've talked a lot about how to empower individuals. And a lot of times when we think about DEI work, we think, solutions are structured around fixing individuals, not recognizing that we're asking individuals to thrive and be successful in systems where there are a lot of inequities. And so I encourage private and public spaces to think about addressing the inequities while empowering the people, which so many of our guests have also already said. Some of the things that we do at WePan, we actually have an accelerated program, and we partner, for example, with the Convergence Fellows program at the Association of American Colleges and Universities in supporting women of color inventors and entrepreneurs and learning more about this pathway and learning more about what's possible for them. And it's been a really incredible opportunity to A, empower individuals, and B, think about how we can use our position to support changing the system. So another piece of work that we do is we work with the NSF Innovation Core program to advance equity and inclusion in their practices. And so beyond thinking about how do we fix the system and how do we empower people, it's also understanding, part of what I love about the question around HBCUs is how interconnected education and career paths are with inventors and entrepreneurship. When I think about the fact that only 1/3 of HBCUs hold patents, when I think about the fact that only 1/10 of them hold patents in the double digits, so 10 or more, that kind of says to me, and thankful to hear from Deputy Director Brent that, we have to increase support around our HBCUs. And when I think of myself as an undergrad, I completed my bachelor's in chemical engineering and my master's in biology at North Carolina A&T. I think a lot about what it would have meant for me to actually have seen Dr. Stephanie Lester Teasley, who I mentioned early on. She was also an A&T graduate. She was also doing phenomenal work. But she's also one of few Black women who holds both domestic and international patents. And the work that she has done in contributing to water and wastewater remediation, that's such a huge global problem. And it just would have been phenomenal to just know more. And I think empowering HBCUs more to look at ourselves and to enjoy what comes out of HBCUs and to kind of continue to cycle that back in, and to understand that, HBCUs are often charged with making $1 out of 15 cents, for lack of a better word. And so how do we better support HBCUs in connecting their student populations with resources such as the Inventors Patent Academy, which is just an incredible deep dive into this path. And it's really empowering to think, I have an idea. There is an actual space where I can see the steps that go into going from idea to venture to patent. I think a lot about that, and I'm really thankful that so many spaces such as Invent Together are really thinking critically about how do we pull all of these kind of disparate spaces together so that we can advance Black folk and other underrepresented folk in these areas and in these pathways.
Thank you so much for that answer. So many insightful answers today, and we're getting some really great information. Excuse me. Before we turn to the audience's questions, I have one more lightning round question for all of you. In 1 to 2 sentences, what would you say that you want our audience to leave today understanding about how to support Black inventors? So takeaways or action steps. Stephanie, want to kick us off?
Thank you. I would say it's critical to understand that Black folk are not monolith, and there is going to be a wide variety of necessary solutions. That comes down to our varied educational paths. Some of us are multi-generational Black Americans. Some of us are from other countries and we've immigrated, or our families immigrated. There are so many different stories. There are so many different overlapping identities. And so as we continue to address these issues, holding on to an understanding that we're not monolith, and it will take a variety of solutions and approaches.
Thanks, Stephanie. Lola, let's go to you next. Any takeaways or action steps to share with the audience?
Yes, I think in general, I just want to say that I really believe in my heart that anybody and everybody can invent. And it takes encouragement for a lot of underrepresented people, women and Black people. We need encouragement. So even if somebody comes to you with an idea, even if you think it's not there yet, encourage them and just give them whatever resources that you have that can point them to making it better. But everybody and anybody can invent. Let's encourage each other to do so, and we'll get there. And I think we'll bring to the world the potential. A lot of our ideas would help solve a lot of the problems that we have in the world today. Thank you.
Thank you. TJ, how about you?
Absolutely. Somewhat similar to Lola, I would say it's really encouraging to hear the interests of people who may traditionally not be seen as those who are maybe interested in invention, people who are maybe in less technical areas, or people who are just working their day jobs, but are Black people who are, have ideas of their own. It's encouraging to hear that, but it's also not encouraging to know that oftentimes they don't even consider that as a possibility. So I would say if we just keep pushing this message that everyone has a potential to do this. I'm saying this from firsthand experience because I've spoken to people who have a lot of interest in what I'm doing, but they don't quite know where to start. So I think it'll be great if we just increase the volume of this message and continue to make the push to people who aren't currently thinking about it.
Such a great point. And Almisha, takeaways, action steps?
Yeah, I would say meet them where they are. Make sure you're creating opportunities to engage and empower them, and don't make assumptions about what they know and don't know. Oftentimes, little simple things as the language we use can be a bit of a turnoff, in these communities and these spaces, because people come in with a deficit model about what they need to fix. And we're not here to fix anybody. We're here to empower them. We're here to encourage them, and we're able to provide resources and opportunities, even if the opportunities are not within their institution. How can you, as an external body, provide those opportunities, whether it be through mentorship, coaching, or even just to give us a short lecture? You have to create those opportunities and not make assumptions about what they need. Talk to them, listen to them. You definitely have to listen to them, because if you create solutions that you think that they have a problem and you're trying to create the solutions without talking to them, then you'll get a lot of pushback, because that's not what they need. And so we have to speak with them, listen to them, and then allow them to create those changes that they need to see within the communities, and then assist them along the way with the resources that you have. And let me say this, oftentimes people think when we say resources, we mean money. My good colleague Stephanie said earlier, about sometimes that we know how to make money out of a dollar and how we can change that. Yes, we do know how to do it. It's when we have least resources is when we become our most innovative. But what we need sometimes is just access to maybe experts, access to tools and resources. It's not always about money, and I just want people to understand that there are ways that you can help in the trenches without even having to spend a dime. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you all for those takeaways. So while there is more work to do to encourage and support Black inventors, I'm glad that we've been able to come together today to celebrate Black invention. So now I want to open the conversation up to the audience. We have a few audience questions that have come in. And again, if you have a question, feel free to click on the button at the bottom of your screen and you can submit a question to the Q&A feature. There's also a resources tab at the bottom of your screen with some great materials on inventor diversity. I encourage you all to take a look. So the first question I have is related to the Inventors Patent Academy. Invent Together offers a free online patent education tool, the Inventors Patent Academy, or TIPA for short. And TIPA is unique because it was designed specifically for historically underrepresented inventors. And it features videos of inventors from historically underrepresented groups sharing their invention and patenting stories. One of those inventors is TJ. So how can a tool like TIPA help train the next generation of Black inventors and entrepreneurs? And this question is for anyone on the panel.
I can take that. I think there are two ways in which it can do so. One is the more obvious path is filing for a patent involves many steps and there's a lot of information and it's quite confusing. And having something to guide individuals through is incredibly valuable. That's something that I didn't necessarily have. I kind of stumbled my way across the process. So having a guide of that sort is valuable. But the other aspect is just seeing people like yourself. When I was filing for a patent, that was an odd experience for me. I had to speak to attorneys and I had to talk to many individuals who I felt very intimidated by. And in this video, seeing tidbits and anecdotes from individuals who have gone through this, who share experiences like you and maybe also felt the same way you did is valuable and can provide motivation and make you feel more sane going through an otherwise daunting process.
Thanks, TJ. Anyone else want to have anything to add on this one related to the Inventors Patent Academy?
I'd also love to add, building onto Almisha's point, resources. Another aspect of inequity is that there's information that is oftentimes withheld from certain communities. We're not thought of being worthy of the investment, or we're not thought of as being interested, as was mentioned earlier. The fact that this is a resource that not only provides critical information, but provides examples such as TJ that allows people to see themselves in this path and see themselves be successful. It's really critical that it also includes the aspect of empowerment along with this historically or traditionally hoarded and guarded information and knowledge. So it's really incredible in that aspect. The fact that it's free and people can tap in also reduces some of the barriers to access to this type of information. So it is a well-rounded, thoughtful resource that I think addresses so many of the points that all of the panelists have made today.
Definitely. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next audience question. How would you encourage K-12 students to become interested in inventing, and what can schools do to encourage inventing? Again, for anybody on the panel.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that because one thing I did a few years ago is create a young inventors program for K to 12, mainly focused on middle school and high school students. And what we started doing is just engaging them with our innovation fellows that are already on the campus, and for them to talk about tech innovation and entrepreneurship. Just started out really small, and then we began to see some interest in students as they were doing 3D modeling, as they were developing apps. They started thinking, oh, this is what we can do. And so we started saying, maybe this is a great space for us to even infuse, tech transfer and inventions and all of this stuff into the students. And so we started doing that. And we tell each student, look, if you create something really ideal, or you come up with a great concept, we will get this patented for you. And so having those conversations and showing them what a patent look like and introducing them to a lot of, of course, they love the Super Soaker. Super Soaker. So that's one of the things that we show. Here's a Super Soaker that you can look at. Can you think of something that you can do? What is the problem that you're having that you want to solve? You're having a problem in your class. How can you fix it? And we're giving them little small challenges for them to try to solve. And it could be something as simple as, using an ice cream cone and hating a cone, but need something better, something simple that they can relate to at their age, and then getting them to start thinking. And that's such a fun thing that we're doing. We have not patented one yet, but we've had a few great ideas that we're working to from some of these students. And I will tell you this: we oftentimes, and I said that with my own kids too, we underestimate how creative and innovative our children can be, and we often say they're not old enough. They're old enough. The minute they can talk, I say get them involved, show them different things, even writing out some cartoons, to show them the process of invention, and getting them involved at the early stage. By time they get into high school and college, they'll already have these terminologies, they'll already have these concepts, they'll already have some know-how. But not only that, if we're trying to do these things in our community, we also have to think about professionals. I often tell people that in the field of tech transfer commercialization, sometimes it's a lonely place because there's not a lot of Black people in the field. And so we're thinking about creating that pathway for some of these students in the STEM programs, in the business programs, and others, that if you're going through these processes, maybe one day you too can take over my job, or you can be, the next whatever bigger than me. You can be at the USPTO. These are the things that you can do, and you start infusing that at a very young age. And I will encourage anyone who loves working with children, who loves working with students, let's start creating programs. It doesn't have to be big at the first, and you will see start expanding. The more you talk to students and you start doing your customer discovery, you realize that they want to do more, and they want to soak up as much materials as they can. And you will see them looking at books and resources that you have available to them in the spaces that they won't often see. And someone alluded to this earlier, that when they see people who look like them in these spaces, that's when they get more excited, because they realize that it's close to home, and they suddenly realize, wow, if he did it or she did it, maybe I can do it too. And how do I get started? And so that was piece that I find my joy in doing that. Every summer, that's what I spend my time doing around these young kids, and it makes me feel younger too. So kudos to all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. You raised such a great point at the value of invention education programs. What can K to 12 schools do is start early in equipping these young students to think about inventorship, to think critically, to, as we've discussed previously, to start doing their homework and reaching out to people and having these conversations. The earlier that we get inventorship in patenting and these critical thinkings for processes in front of our young students, the better. So let's go to the next question. What specific advice do you have for inventors who want to patent but don't know where to start? And for this, maybe we'll go to our inventors on the call.
Okay.
So
Lola, might I call on you?
yes, I can address that. I would say start from Tipper. That's an obvious question. I think for me, like I said, I'm privileged to work within a company where we have resources. So if you're working within a company that have resources, seek out the resources, find out what is available to you. If you don't have access to company resources, check out Tipper, check out the USPTO's office. I think the deputy director shared some of the initiatives and the resources that are available. Check those sites out. Seek out Black inventors. Go on LinkedIn. Look at people who are inventors. Ping them and ask them. Would you be able to spend a few minutes talking about your invention or whatever questions you have? I would say just seek out invention, seek out resources, and seek out communities of people who are inventing. I think whoever, maybe it's in your colleges, that you can have that community. Experts in the particular field that you're going into, start talking to them, shop around your ideas, what you're thinking, let people challenge it and pull that apart and encourage you. I think with all those resources and outreach, and you also working to actually solidify your knowledge in whatever field that you are looking at, I think with those you'll be able to definitely make progress.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that was just said. What I would add to that as well is, for those who are looking to get started but not quite sure where to start, there are pro bono services available, and we spoke about that a bit earlier. And these individuals are, they're there to help without any payment, and that's something that can be extremely valuable. The other thing is, while obtaining a full patent can be long and expensive and so forth, a provisional patent is much less, the barriers are much lower. So if you're looking to get started, those two things are, I think, very practical things to look into: provisional patents and pro bono attorneys.
Thanks, TJ. I see we're close on time, so maybe we can do this as a lightning round. Just very quickly, it's our last audience question. Are there examples of organizations, nonprofits or investors, or individuals who are supporting Black inventors and entrepreneurs? Again, maybe 15 seconds or less for anybody that wants to jump in here.
I'll jump in.
I have a quick list. Oh, sorry.
You go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would say, of course, you can look us up at WePan. We have a 2-day accelerator. I would look into spaces like SeedSpot. Arlen Hamilton, one of few Black women leading this space. She has free courses on arlensacademy.com. And of course, absolutely, TIPA.
Almisha, were you jumping in there?
Yes, there are a number of them out there. There's a Black venture group that does challenges and trains students in that space. I would also say that also look at those who do those tech challenges, because sometimes that's where you find a lot of the support on. I'm working with Princeton University and Empower conference in April, and that also provides some opportunities there. And this one specifically supporting Black women inventors and who wants to be inventors. So they walk into a lot of different process depending on the type of speakers and stuff that we have for that program. But I would say in the last 2 years, a number of initiatives has kickstarted that come up to bring those. And also we have the Black Innovation Alliance. Stephanie is reminding us to mention the Black Innovation Alliance. So there's a number of them out there that are definitely doing some great stuff. I also want to give a shout out because I'm, chair of Autumn, but Autumn also have resources there. We also created a program for HBCUs and other minority serving institutions so we can upskill them in this space to not only be inventors and entrepreneurs, but also to be the professionals behind the scenes supporting those activities. So, but I give kudos to all the organizations that have come up over the last 2 years, supporting that. Stephanie does great work in her space, so definitely reach out to her and she can get you some of those other resources that you have as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that concludes today's Invent Together virtual briefing. Please join me in thanking Deputy Director Brent and all of our panelists for an excellent conversation. Yes, thank you so much. On behalf of all of our speakers, I want to thank you for joining us today. To learn more about Invent Together and inventor diversity, please visit our website, inventtogether.org. Sign up for email updates and follow us on Twitter. Thank you for your questions throughout today's program. If we've not responded to your question, we'll make every effort to respond to you individually following the webcast. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you soon at a future Invent Together event. Thank you.